Okay, for the next short demonstration, I'm going to indicate some of the things that you can do with the live paint. And for this, a lot of times people find that they want to just draw something with lines and paths and maybe with a pencil tool or a brush tool, and then they have trouble really getting the areas to color, because in Illustrator, using the traditional method, you have to have closed paths. In this, you still have to have overlapping shapes, but you don't necessarily have to have closed paths. I'll just do some really quick and simple drawing here, which really will be just very simple. I'll just use some things like the line segment tool and have some overlapping shapes like this. So long as these paths create enclosed areas, you can fill those with colors using the process that I'm about to show you. Okay, if you select them, and with the drop down, there's a drop down for this where you can go to Live Paint and Make. Okay, and then with the shortcut of K, just the letter K, you'll see that my paint bucket is ready to paint these areas filled with color. If you look really closely, what it's doing is it's utilizing the swatch panel, and now I'm just clicking with my right arrow key. It's utilizing the swatch panel as a way to fill these areas with color. And you just drop the paint bucket. Actually, it's that little arrow point that you see there. You just drop that onto a space and it'll fill it with a color. And so I'm just kind of doing like every other color now, or every other area, and filling it with that orange there. Now I'll just click a few more times with my arrow key here, and I'm just going to the right. You can go up or down or left or right, and I'll fill some of these with the next color that I have that pops up, and you can see how you can create these kind of patterns using colors that just touch, or where they share a common corner. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, and I'm just kind of filling that in. Okay, and now it'll fill any place. By the way, it doesn't even have to be. I'm going to deselect everything here. It doesn't even have to be selected for this to work, and so I can continue to fill. And I clicked in the wrong area. This is a little instruction thing that comes up if you happen to click in the wrong spot, which I just did. It won't fill out here because it's not closed, but it'll fill here because it is closed. If you can see the difference there. Okay, so those are filled areas. Those are enclosed areas. They're not closed paths, which is the advantage. Okay, but they are closed areas. Okay, so you see kind of how that works. Now, it can be any color that's in your swatch panel. If I wanted to introduce some blues here, I could do that as well. Okay, so, and it'll do gradients. Again, I clicked in the wrong spot there because that space is not closed. If I went back and drew some more areas here, then I'd have some closed paths. You see what I mean? Okay. Now you can even use, again, the shortcut is K. It's here in your tool box, and it'll also do gradients. Get down to my gradient area down there at the bottom of the. See if I can find it here. It'll do patterns, and it'll do gradients. It'll do everything that's in your swatch panel. It'll even do none, which kind of defeats the purpose. Okay. All right. So you can see I've got all my closed spaces. Yeah, there's another one here, and maybe one more here. Okay. So I've got all my closed spaces filled with a live paint. All right. I'm just going to do that again. This time I'm going to use something like a brush tool. Now, we haven't used the brush a whole lot in here. The brush is attached to this little drop down here, and one thing that I kind of like using is the flat brush. And then once I've got a 5-point flat brush, if I multiply it by the by the size of the stroke, I can do strokes that look like this. And so if you imagine, if I turn this into a live paint area, this area will be, I could fill this one, I could fill this one, I can fill this one, I can fill. But you can also do things like this. I'll just add a few more things here with my brush tool. Okay. You can also do this. Remember, if I look at an outline view, the brush is a stroke tool, and so it's just making strokes. But if you select all of that and turn it into fill areas, instead of strokes, I'll have fill areas. If I go to Object, Path, and Outline Stroke, we've done this many times in class. Okay, now you can see that even these areas overlap. These become areas that I can turn into live paint areas. Okay, with that all selected, I'm going to use this time I'm just going to jump to my K tool, the live paint bucket, and you'll see that I can convert this into a live paint group. If you look at that little instruction there, click to make a live paint group. So you can either do it from the drop down like we did before, or you can just click, and you may want to have loaded up a color that you like, because it's going to turn this area instantly to that color. And you can see that I've just turned that into this orange. Okay, and I can fill any area that's enclosed, but I can also fill any area of this, what was originally a stroke, with the same live paint function. Your up and down arrows will still switch between the colors in your swatch panel, and so you can do complicated kind of drawings like this. Again, you don't have to have anything selected, so I'm just going to deselect, and my live paint will continue to function just as it has before. I'm using the up arrow here just to kind of toggle through some new colors. There's yellow. This can become yellow. This can become yellow. This. Okay, but so can this. And I can change the color of this one, because now there's colors right next to each other. Okay, so getting a kind of a rather complicated drawing to fill instantly with new color is really not very hard. I also have another video of this made by a professional instructor that is also a professional illustrator. If you want to look back at our homepage, I've got an illustration for that.